Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be going over a quick tutorial on how I edit photos in Photoshop. The first thing you want to do is click Command J, and that's going to duplicate your layer. Then what you would want to do is go over to your spot healing brush tool and remove any obstructing objects that's in the photos. For instance, this reflector that I had to give her that catch eye. Make sure when you're doing the spot healing brush that you're on a content aware, and I usually keep the brush hardness at 50%. Once you have done that, what I like to do is kind of clean up the backdrop, even on the blemishes on her face and on her, her chest area right in here. You see these little spots and stuff over here. We want to get rid of that. And it doesn't have to be, perfect. You just slightly touching it up. I am going to fast forward just for the time purposes. Here's the before. Here's the after. And you see right there, it just made a big difference already within the image. So we're just going to clean up her face a little bit, still using the spot healing brush tool. And as you see, I'm not extremely zoomed in. That's some things I do notice sometimes photographers mess up on when they're editing their images, is that they zoom too close into the image and you're not able to see what you're doing because you're so far zoomed in. Before, after. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and click that basic frequency separation. I use the Prince Mason frequency separation tool pack, link in the description box below. So what we're going to do is use the high frequency layer, and we're going to use the clone stamp tool, option, and then the click button to copy where you want and drag over those imperfections. So the high frequency layer is pretty much removing blemishes. As you can see right here where she has a few bags underneath her eyes, I use the exact same thing, the basic frequency separation, to kind of get rid of those. So now we're going to go to the low frequency separation. Remember, guys, this is so that we can kind of even the skin tone out some. So for this, we don't use the clone step tool. We're going to use our mixer brush tool. You can refer to the settings that I have at the top of my screen. You can use those. I've used it for pretty much all of my images and they tend to work pretty fine. For the mixer brush tool, you're pretty much doing the exact same thing. You click the mixer brush tool and you're going to hold option if you're on a Mac. Grab the selection that you want the best color from. So usually what I do is grab from the chest area or the cheekbone area. That's usually where the most saturation is. And I copy that. And then I just draw over the whole body. That way she's going to have that nice even skin tone. And this is pretty much like a rough draft. It doesn't have to be perfect because you can do the basic frequency separation over and over and over again until it's to your liking. Here's the before, and here's the after. All right, so now what we're going to do, we're going to merge those layers together and we're going to create a duplicate. Then we're going to go over to our micro, dodge, and burn. This burn part is going to pretty much darken the areas that's already dark. We're going to grab our brush tool. I take mine down to 1%. And I just make the darker areas darker. This is going to bring like dimension to her face, dimension to her body. Before, after. You can't see a big difference right now, but you'll definitely see it. For the dodge, it's the opposite. All the highlights, you use this to make the highlights pop a little bit more. In her chest area, even on the hair. Yep. Right there. Yep. I take it up to maybe about 3% so you can see a little bit better different, a bigger difference in it. So as you can see, it's lightening up a little bit on her neck, shoulder, just a little bit. Yep. Cheekbone. Yep. Before, after. Big difference. Big difference. You lighten up her hands a little bit. Even her dress, where you see it shining at a little bit, throw a little bit, a little sauce on there. Yep. We go to the before after. Let's go to the burn. As you can see, it's making those darker spots even darker. This is how you add the dimension and make the image pop. Before, after. Big difference just with that micro dodge and burn. From there, I'll throw the skin softening on. This one is from Pixim Perfect. This is one of his toolkits that I use fairly quite often. This is how we make that skin really smooth. So what I like to do is use the radius of about 10.1. I like to keep it in there in that frame rate. If you go at 10 with every image, that's pretty much like the sweet spot for the radius. On the high pass. Click OK. Once you click OK, then now you're on the Gaussian blur. My Gaussian blur, I really like to keep it at like a 3.0. That's usually the sweet spot for all my images. Click OK. From there, you want to use your brush tool. Make sure you click the skin softening. Yep. I usually keep my opacity, the flow, let's see. Yeah, opacity about 64, 50%. You just give or take depending on what image you're using. But the flow, probably about 5%. Now you want to go on to the skin. Make sure you don't get on the eye, the eyebrows, anything that has the actual real texture, but just strictly on the skin. And you want to make sure that the brush tool is white and just paint over her face. I tend to see a lot of beginners. What they'll do is take the flow up and the opacity all the way up to 100, and that tends to mess up the image. You don't want to do that. You want to take your time. It's almost like painting. When you paint a wall, you're going to use primer. You're going to use, all the ingredients before you actually put the real, paint layer on there. So if you have to do it 2 to 3 times, that's fine because you're going to see a better result in the end. I'm going to combine and merge the layers together. Going to make another duplicate. Command J. All right, now we're going to go back to our spot removal brush, and we're going to play with the hair a little bit. So all those flyaways, nobody like the flyaway hairs. So we're just going to slightly go over, the ones that you can really see it, and, just remove them. And there's many different ways to clean up hair. I know this is not the best way to do it. There's a lot of different ways out there. But for me, when I'm on a, time restraint and I'm trying to hurry up and make a, a image, edit an image and still, edit it good enough, this is also a good technique. It isn't the best. So now I'm going to go ahead and do another clone stamp tool for this one. We're going to change the hardness all the way to 100%. Okay, that one seems to be working a little bit better. So what I'm doing is grabbing just pieces of the backdrop and erasing those flyaways. Yep, if you have little patches in the hair, you can grab a piece of the hair and fill it in. Like I said, this isn't the best technique, but if you're in a, in a crunch time and you have to get that image back out to the client pretty fast, this is a pretty decent technique. So now what I'm about to do is clean up the background a little bit, these little spots. So what I use is the patch tool. Make sure it's on source. And we just circling. It's pretty much almost like the clone stamp tool. Like you grabbing a piece of the backdrop that you like or that you don't like in this case. You see a mark and then you're gonna grab it and pull it to a good spot. Nope, messed up on that one. Sometimes it works. Sometimes they do different techniques. So for this one, I'm going to use the spot healing brush tool to get rid of these little marks. And if this is your first time editing a picture, it definitely takes time and repetition. So I'm going to grab that patch tool again, grab the areas that I don't like and pull it over to an area that I do like. And as you can see, I'm kind of moving fast. This one doesn't have to be perfect, because then we're going to clean that background up with something else as well. Now what I'm going to do is go back to, again, that basic frequency separation. Keep it at 14. Open that high frequency layer. Nope, my bad. I'm sorry. We're going to do the low frequency layer and go back to that mixer brush tool. Grab the nice area of gray that you like or whatever image that you're working with and paste it on the bad area. And remember, this right here is just keeping that nice blend of color, so you won't see those blotches and the differences in the grays. And again, how you do that: Option, click, and draw. These techniques definitely work a lot better on a tablet. I do not recommend doing it on a keyboard or a mouse. Use the keyboard for your shortcuts, and then the tablet and pen for actually painting. It will save you a lot of time. What I use to edit my images is the Intuos Wacom tablet. I'll leave that link to the tablet in the description. So now I'm going to use this high frequency layer. See if I see anything that I want to change. Zoom in a little bit. I'm going to use that clone stamp tool. I see this little spot that's going to aggravate me a little bit. Yep. Here we go. Yep. See if we can fill this eyebrow in a little bit. Here we go. Boom. Just like that. That spot is gone. Almost, you know. This little, let's see. Let's change the colors underneath her eyes. I don't really like, it's like you can see it's almost too dark. We're gonna go to the low frequency layer now. Mixer brush tool. Yep. Everywhere you see a little imperfection, go to the low frequency separation, copy from a good area of skin, and just draw over it. It's almost like you're copying and pasting. Right here, I see a little part in her chin. Back to the high frequency separation, clone stamp tool, grab the good piece of skin, paint over it. And just like that, it's going. I try not to make it too perfect. I do want to see some kind of lines. Like, that's why I'm leaving the lines right there by her mouth. Like a half dimple. I mean, because that's natural. I was always taught, like, anything that stays there longer than 2 weeks, you don't remove. Unless the client, you know, wants you to remove it. Let's go ahead and merge these layers together. Duplicate that layer. I usually would remove that little spot right there by her chest piece. I think it's like a bra, but for the time purposes, I'm not going to do it. Now we're going to go back to the spot healing brush tool and clean up some more skin that you don't want. Even to her eyeball, like her eyelashes was covering her, you know, eyeball a little bit. We're just going to remove some of the eyelashes just so it look a little bit cleaner. The little fine hairs, little flyaways right here. Let's get rid of those. And I know some of y'all may be thinking like, golly, this is not a quick tutorial on how to edit pictures, but I mean, it takes time. Some images take up to an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours maybe. What we're going to do now is do a global dodge and burn. I'm going to use the burn tool, use the brush tool. Make sure that opacity is about 1. And remember, this is where all the dark spaces are at. We're just making them a little bit darker so it gives her that dimension, that pop. Yeah, where the shadows are at, you want to make those darker. You don't want it to look Photoshop, but you want it to look so real, like you can reach out and almost touch it. That's the before, that's the after. All right, let's move to the dodge layer. Still in the brush tool, make sure it's white. We're going to take it up just a little bit, about 3%. Now all the highlights, or we're going to just paint over those a little bit so it gives it more pop. In her chest area, neck, cheekbone a little bit, just a little bit, not too much. Yep, here we go, good. Yep, See, even on the lip, you see that little shine right there? We're gonna make that a little bit sharper. I mean, a little bit shinier. Before, after. Let's do a little bit right here on the forehead, nose, eyelid. Let's put a little bit in her hair. Get her hair a little bit of shine. All right. Before, after. All right. Now what we're going to do is do another skin layer, skin softening layer. Because I feel like her skin could be a little bit more softer. Let's smooth it out. Remember, I like to keep my radius at about 10.1, give or take. And I like to keep that radius on the Gaussian blur at about 3. Click the skin softening layer, click the brush tool, make sure that it is white. 3% for this is, it's pretty decent. And then all you're gonna do is paint over her skin again. Remember not to put it on her teeth, her eyes, hair, stuff like that. You only want to put it on the skin. And again, the skin softening action that I'm using is from Pixum Perfect. All right. We're going to combine those two layers, the skin softening and the basic frequency separation. We're going to go to light contrast. As you can see, it brightens the colors up. It brightens the background up. For the tutorial purposes, the LUT packs aren't LUTting, so I'm just going to drag it from a different picture and just pull it over to this picture. But usually what I would do is load in the Prince Mason LUT packs from my computer. Yep. There we go. You see what that does? So now we're going to touch up on the eyes. Her eyes is a little bit too dark. Everything else is bright, but her eyes isn't. So we're going to use that brush tool again. Make sure that it is white. Choose the flow about 5%. Zoom in. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. And this works on the teeth and as well as the eyes. See that catch eye, that catch light in her eye. You don't want to do it too much, but just enough where, okay, it makes a difference. Now, what we're going to do, let's do a smart sharpen. All of these things is in the Prince Mason Essentials pack. So if you really want to follow along with me, I'll put his link in the description and you download that pack and you can follow along. All this is doing is sharpening up the image a little bit. If it's a little too soft, you click the radius at 1 and it's going to sharpen it up a little bit for you. We almost done. Let's see, we're going to look over everything, make sure we got it all. It's a lot of layers. Here go a before and after right here. Before. After. Before. After. Not bad. Could have been done a little bit better, but like I said, this is what you do when you're, in a time constraint and you just want to make a already good picture even better. It could be 10 times better this if you take your time a little bit more, but hey, I think it turned out pretty good. Before, after. All right, guys, this wraps up the tutorial. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up or a comment letting me know what you liked about it. Also, click that bell so you get notified every time I upload a video. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace.